Welcome, everybody, to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Shay Howe. Shay is the CMO, or Chief Marketing Officer, at ActiveCampaign. He leads marketing, customer acquisition, partnership, platform strategy, and the post-mark teams within the ActiveCampaign. Previously helped with startups at Lightbank, VC, and then he's had leadership positions across product design at Groupon and Belly. Started off at ActiveCampaign when they were 100 employees, or now at 800 employees. And a global tech unicorn now. Shay, welcome. Happy to have you on the show, man.
Ryan, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm pumped, man. I really enjoyed our conversation to kind of kick things off and get to know each other. And so I'm excited where this can go. But before we get too deep into it, why don't we do a real quick revenue rundown so everyone understands the stage of the journey that ActiveCampaign's at. I know you guys are larger from an organization perspective, and I saw you took some funding in 21. So let's just walk through where you guys are at in terms of like the revenue journey.
Yeah, I started, so I put it in perspective. I've been here about 6 years. It'll be 6 years next month. Well, I don't know.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Yeah, I joined, we were, as you just shared, roughly 100 employees, revenue in the 20 to 25 million range. And the last time we shared kind of our public kind of revenue run rate was about 2 years ago. And that was north of 150 million now, significantly more than that. So continue to climb up just throughout there.
I love that, man. And one of the things I saw too when I was digging deeper into ActiveCampaign is that you have like close to, I think it was 840 automations or something like that, which is it something around that? Probably way larger than that from the time when it was published. Is that accurate with what you guys do?
I think, yeah. So I think what you're probably referencing is the integrations.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the heart of ActiveCampaign being an automation platform, infinite number of automations you can create based off of different triggers and actions and depth of capabilities that are truly I think I'm biased, but I'd say above industry standards or what most folks would kind of anticipate.
Yeah.
Part of that is having integrations, by which you can start to bring in all the different data from the different tools you use into ActiveCampaign. We like to do that in what we call kind of a unified data model, so that you're not just bringing data in and then having to figure out how to organize it, what the structure of it is, and you then go reuse that. We assist with all that, but yeah, getting that data in an organized way allows you to start to take action on it, right? To change your customer experience, to put it into automations to improve what might be the personalization. And then with the same lens, it also builds automation into tools that may not historically have it, right? So depending on your workflow, it could be, I think most folks are using Slack or Microsoft Teams of the sorts. And certain events are happening, you can send messages into those different types of channels, right? Like you can start to layer automation into tools that you historically haven't had them to broadly just increase a lot of your productivity. So no shortage of the automations you can create for sure.
Yeah. No, I think that was something that struck me because just the sheer quantity, right? So I thought that was particularly impressive. And then I guess just to put on a bow on this, right? Because of the size that you are as an organization, what would you say is like the primary audience that you serve, and then like the tangible outcomes that you create, like 2 or 3 sentences? Because people will talk about this for days if I let them. So.
I love that you gave me guardrails, because I'm gonna, its simplest form, right? We are a marketing automation platform. We include native channels such as email marketing, CRM, landing pages, forms, but it's, automation is the heart and center of it. The core audience for that, more commonly than not, is a marketer. That could be the sole entrepreneur who does everything and is a marketer. Mm-hmm. It could be a marketing manager in a global corporation. Right? The CRM side also then blends into your own sales role. So you could be the sales rep, sales manager, or the CRO. So all those personas are using ActiveCampaign on a daily basis.
Okay, makes a lot of sense, and I love it. So let's let me crawl inside your brain a little bit and walk around there and get some insights from you. So, I love the diversity of your background, spanning across product and then being basically a business unit leader, and then marketing as well, even mergers and acquisitions, I believe at one point. Yeah. So you've very diverse experience. Of all those areas, like what's your absolute favorite thing to do of those 4 areas that I just mentioned?
Oh, that is such a tricky question. It's most of my career, right? It's been on B2B SaaS startups going through hyper growth phases, right? So coming in when there is probably the first round of funding, right? So when I joined ActiveCampaign, they had raised a round of funding. But in an area where there's still a lot of unknown and gray areas where you're not quite sure. We think there's an opportunity over there, but who's going to lead that? How do we organize it? Who needs to get involved? And I love those areas. Like, to me, the working in that stage of growth is one where you have to be a bit more of a generalist, right? Where the design background plays at hand, knowing the technical side and being an engineer layers into that. Knowing how to take things to market or understanding its viability from a product side. It truly is the coalescence of all those that keep me excited, engaged, and the ability to use that right to left side of the brain is where I want to be. If you told me I had to narrow in or be tightly focused on, even in marketing, you just said, "Hey, Shay, all we want to do is performance marketing. We don't care about the brand." I'd be like, "Ooh, I don't know that I can do that." And vice versa, be like, "We only care about the brand, and we think that organic will drive it through brand, and we don't need the performance side." One, I just think there's a lot of missed opportunity there. But two, I think my sweet spot is truly the overlap in that Venn diagram where we can start to layer those together. So I don't know that I can say one is truly my favorite. I would say marketing is the most challenging in that. I say that in the sense of I don't mean to discredit design or engineering. I think everything has their own values. But from a leading perspective in marketing, everyone's doing something different, right? Like when it's a team of designers, engineers, we're all using the same tools, the same discipline. But in marketing, it's, hey, this person's focused on paid acquisition. That person's focused on social and community. Someone else over there is in content marketing. Someone over here is on earned media and PR. Like, the ideas and conversations of every hour, every day are different. And that will really stretch, I think, just the capabilities one will have or how they think about things. So I can't say one is my favorite, but I can say one is certainly has been more challenging.
Well, let me ask you this. Maybe this is a different way to ask the question, because you answer that very politically correct, right? As not to offend anybody. But so what's your ninja skill? What would you say, like, if you could only pick one thing that you're world class at or best in, of your toolkit or tool, if you will, what's the number one thing that you think you're best at? If you can only pick one, what would you do? And what do you think you're exceptional at?
Ooh. And you mean that in a discipline lens? Like, I got to lead a function.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like being a dad or, being a good guy. We're talking about business here, man. We're talking about that shit. So yeah, like from that perspective.
Honestly, I think it's the operations of all of it in a weird way. Like if you had to distill that down, it would be a GM role, a CEO role, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know that I would say it is I want to lead design or product or marketing specifically. It truly is taking those together. Right?
Yeah, the orchestration basically of all the different functions, right?
Totally.
So which is interesting because I think I haven't led an organization of your size at that level. However, one of the things that I would say that I'm exceptional at is the orchestration of selling to people like that at large scale, right? So selling to 18 people or 12 people for a really large revenue size deal and identifying all the KPIs and all the emotional triggers that other people want, right? So I can see what you're talking about because that's the first thing that I thought of when it comes to that. So, all right, well, let's shift gears a little bit. So, one of the things that has me curious, just based on what we talked about in the pre-show and some of the things that you're doing, let's say you had to create a startup now. Today's day one, you have all your skills and experience, and let's say you need to do product-led growth. You have no technical debt, and you can leverage AI. How would you create that startup from the ground up? What would be your approach and thought process in terms of designing it and creating a solution that the market loves and needs?
Yeah. AI is an interesting part of that because I honestly think that, if I were to do something like that, AI would have to be a piece of that because fundamentally we're moving in that direction. Right? To me, it would be, where is there demand already? Right. So I probably don't want to do something in a category creation where I'm going to have to convince some folks that this is something they need, I'm going to look for where are folks already at and they just can't find the right solution for. What
Give me
is the
some
white
examples. Like, give me some examples of what you're not, what you're thinking about, or what comes to mind when you think of that. Because I have some ideas myself, but I'd be curious
Yeah.
of what comes to mind for you.
I think ActiveCampaign is a perfect example of this, right? Like where we build out an automation platform that has a depth of capabilities, but is incredibly easy to use. At the same time, a market is maturing through email marketing, right? Where they've gotten autoresponders or drip campaigns. And the education has gotten to a point where we're like, what else could I automate? Or how do I take this a layer further, right? So the organic tailwind just behind this met the moment where ActiveCampaign's platform reached a maturity of actually being able to solve it, right? I would look for that where there is a trend and something is bubbling, and that there's a demand here, and just getting in there. It's the idea of we're fishing in a stocked pond, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't have to go out and try and find the fish; it's already there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's the way you would look at it. How would you approach it then from a marketing or go-to-market perspective with that? Especially in light of everything that's happened with social recently, right? LinkedIn's algorithm has changed.
Yeah.
Twitter is changing with Elon. Threads just got released. You got SEO that's kind of in question with AI, how that's going to be looked at in the future. And so just massive levels of uncertainty in terms of how to kind of approach it. And then the other thing I forgot to mention is paid acquisition has gone up exponentially as well. So how would you approach that from a go-to-market marketing perspective?
Yeah, it definitely lean on the product-led growth side of it, right? Like that would be, how we basically turn our customers into our largest advocates to be the word of mouth driver for this, and then what are the ways we can use our product to essentially get in front of others. I won't go too deep in the product side because I think there's a lot being covered there and can be buzzwordy. I think what you're hinting at is very important. Is the idea of marketing is rapidly changing. It's different today than it was a year ago, and that's different than it was the year before. And where I would go is building out more owned channels, where I'm not going to build all of our growth behind social, be it either organic or paid social. I'm not going to put it all behind, a channel that we don't own. So I would look at things more in the sense of email can be an owned channel. We could build our own community, be it on site versus tied into Facebook as a community, etc. I would look for the ways where, with so much being stripped away or changing in the movement of algorithms, etc., I would think about how do we build the best customer experience so that it drives its referrals, and then how do we own the channels by which all of that happens. I would experiment, explore other ones, but I would not lean on them to build the business through and through.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, there's so much uncertainty. I've seen that. Like, let's take LinkedIn, for example. I had a rhythm down earlier this year, and like my social growth was exploding. And then all of a sudden, like I had LinkedIn's like, oh, we introduced this awesome algorithm. It's going to make everything better. It's kind of like the equivalent of like when a company rolls out a new comp plan and they're like, yeah, you're going to make way less money, but it's better for you, right? Like it's kind of like that. They're like, oh yeah, it's more customized, more specific. And then you look at it, and I literally had the same posts from, because you could repurpose certain posts that would do really well. And the post got maybe 3% of the views like a month and a half later. And I was like, whoa, this is big, right? And so I get what you're saying. I'm a huge believer in referrals as well. I think referral-led growth is one of the most underrated categories, or not categories, areas that people focus on. I think the reason why is because it's not just a lever you pull, or it's not just an automation. There's the emotional experience, the product experience, and then integrating that all and orchestrating that with like incentives and timing as well, right? So it's kind of like a delicate dance, in my opinion. I don't know. Do you agree or disagree on that?
No, I totally agree on all of it. Coming on the first part of it, we have someone on the team who every week would basically get 100,000 impressions in LinkedIn on their post. Exact same story you just shared. Algorithm changes. Now they might get 10,000, 10% of what it was, right?
Isn't that crazy?
And it's understanding why and how to rebuild some of that. also a challenge. Um, Also in an area too where I wouldn't hinge all that on one person too, right? Like you got to build a team that's able to do that and spread that
Right.
out so that, if you lose a key influencer or something that it can change. And then that referral side, one of the key pieces of ActiveCampaign, and kudos to the team, that a lot of this was in place even before I got here, was just the affiliate program. Started early and saying, hey, there's some key customers that have joined. They're telling others, let's start to recognize and reward them. And set up just an affiliate program way back in the day. Even self-built the platform because there weren't affiliate tools in those days. And that today contributes roughly 20% of revenue.
No.
And that's not small. Like that's not
It's significant, man. Especially at your size. Like 20% is a lot of go. It's a lot of cash. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like Tesla actually had 9 versions of a referral program. I don't know if you know that or not.
I do not know.
And then I think Dropbox got 33% of the revenue from referrals, and actually Slack got 95% of their users from referrals or something like that. So
Dropbox did incredibly well, right? Like they took the idea of product-led growth and referrals and married those two, right? To where they had idea if I refer someone to Dropbox, I will get more storage space and they'll also get free storage space. I even heard stories of people in those days taking those referral links and running paid ads. Because they're like, I will pay for someone to get referred through a paid ad, be it through SEM. And then I just in perpetuity have free storage space. Like I just got to run a few ads to get free storage.
That's kind of awesome. It's kind of weird at the same time, but it's awesome that someone would take that and just like, screw it, man. I'll just run some paid ads.
Yeah.
But if you got people running paid ads on your behalf because it's that lucrative, then that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, they did a double-sided referral program, which I think was foundational to that. So, all right. So let's shift gears a little bit. All right. We talked about that. I love your approach with the owned aspect of whether it be online or offline communities, and then email, which makes so much sense. So,
yeah.
Let's talk about AI a little bit deeper and use cases for it, business use cases for AI. So what are, I guess, the top, let's say, 3 best use cases you see internally for leveraging AI? And then where do you see the future of this going with marketing? So let's start off with the internal aspect first.
Yeah. So, I give you like 3 ways I'm seeing AI, or that we're using it even. I think folks are probably doing this a little bit differently, but one is, everyone's doing this, right? It's the content generation, the editing side, right? So, and for us, we're doing it in ways where we're very cautious on the SEO end of it. Right? We don't use AI to write all our content to basically our blog because that's just a collation of what's already out there and it's going to be a little mute, right? So for us, it's, hey, let's use it to write ad copy. Let's test headlines through it. Let's get it to do social media posts. Let's write chatbot scripts. Let's do translations. Let's do emails through it. Things like that, right? Where we're not thinking about organic as a channel there. So content generation has been a big piece of it. Another side is just the research and brainstorming side, right? So hey, go compare us to others in market, or tell me more about this vertical, or hey, we need launch plans, or we want an example report for something. We're trying to name a product. Give us a bunch of ideas on that. Give us design suggestions. Go find influencers, right? Like there's just a bunch of research happening there. Those 2 ends of it, the content generation, kind of research and brainstorming side, I think are interesting. For me, more of the power is using generative AI for true insights, right? So where I can we run a survey, and feed it all the data, and I say, summarize it, right? Give me the trends, give me the themes, and then the ability to talk to it in the sense of, well, give me an example of that, like unpack that, or who else said something similar to that, and what are the attributes of them as compared to the base? So an example of this where we've done this has been in our attribution. Right? So you sign up for ActiveCampaign, there's just a text box that's going to ask you, hey, how did you hear about ActiveCampaign? It's not a drop down, it's not a checkbox. You just tell us, and I'll take all that, feed it to AI, and let it start to give us the insights. We can then feed that alongside our first and last touch for multi-touch attribution, start to get better trends or themes of, not only are you telling us where the key or critical moment was of how you found that was, but we're also using the data we own and understand to actually get a full weave of what the actual customer journey was. Um, so I geek out about the insights side of where AI is playing
Oh yeah.
more than maybe the content generation or elsewhere.
I've leveraged that too, man. I love that. Did you use Code Interpreter for that or a different tool?
No, nothing fancy. Honestly, it's Bard, it's ChatGPT, like the OpenAI side of it, like just feeding it in and just talking to it.
Did you use Code Interpreter within ChatGPT or no?
Nope.
No?
You
Okay.
can just you can copy and paste it in.
So check that out,
Yeah.
man. That'll be something that could help you out. So if you got the $20, and you might even be looking at the enterprise version now, but
Yep.
Code Interpreter is basically a data analyst option that you have for data specifically. And then so you could do that more through the data analyst lens or a data scientist lens. And then you could also have it orchestrated into graphs, charts, all that stuff. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
yeah, no, and I'm not explicitly using Code Interpreter to do it, but you just ask it. Like, give me the table of that data, right? Build that into a graph. Like it'll just do it.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, like, and I'm starting to ask people more because like I'm finding use cases, and the more people I talk to, the more ideas that I find are out in the market that are not individualistic, but individual company use cases. Like another example, another guest had on that one of the things they did really to exponentially help the sales organization is basically they took through their own internal AI engine, they created one. They took all their product docs, and what happened was sales used to ask product all the time, like, what does the customer mean by this? What do they need for this? And they're like, they can get 80% of it done now just by through like leveraging that in a chat tool. So like things like that, things about what you're talking about, there's so many use cases. It's wild, right?
Yeah. I even have a friend building out a tool very similar to that. Take all your internal help docs, even go into Google Docs, go through Gong recording of calls, go through the CRM, go through all the enablement materials you have, and then use that to fill out RFPs or to answer very specific questions while you're actually on with a customer, pitching them. So it's the tools there are getting quite powerful and kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean it's crazy. So let's talk about this. Like, so continuing to move forward, how is this gonna completely or not completely change the landscape of marketing? How is AI gonna change the landscape of marketing over the next 2 to 3 years?
I mean, it's happening, right? Like, I don't even know that I can predict all of the ways it's going to happen. I feel as if we're in the first half of the first inning of this one, honestly. Even when I do just organic, for example, I do a Google search. The first page is nothing but a generative response from Google. Right? And that is on everything. That's a fundamental shift. Even in how you're going to have to think about how do you build out more brand reputation and authority there. I think thought leadership is going to actually really start to evolve, and folks are going to have to find ways to. It's not going to be the SEO where you're just identifying someone's intent through search and then addressing it. Like, you're going to have to do more to build true authority in market, so that then the algorithms actually start to place you in different ways through generative content, right? Like, where the reputation or validity of that stands a little higher. So it's changing. I cannot say all the ways it's going to evolve. I just don't think anyone knows. The best guess is right now. But I think that's where I go own channels, more thought leadership, or just owning the odds and ends of it, and the referral components, as we were saying earlier, right? Like, that will be a true owned channel for a lot of folks. Yeah. But I think the trick is going to be where can that AI side, what opportunities will it open that we have not yet seen that the first mover is going to have strong advantages in, right? Like, that's where I'm starting to think or poke a little more.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so with the own channels, because like that is so true, right? If content, the cost to create content is democratized, and the ease of use of it happens, there's going to be a lot more of it out there. So there's going to be way more crap to cut through, right? So what have you seen, right? Because you have a massive depth of looking through your platform and internally for the best ways for companies to acquire let's say own channels, right? Like what's the best strategy and tactics that you've seen for someone to acquire to own channels, whether it be community or email? And would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. The content is, you said, like getting democratized, right? They're going to have to start to think more about what is really valuable, right? I can go to Google and largely type in an inquiry, and and Google is moving from this idea that it's an index where you have to click on things to go through and see if you can find results, to just being, here's your answer, right? You got to think a little bit deeper around how do you provide generally valuable information, and in many ways it's non-promotional, right? Like, I'm not here to necessarily sell you something. I'm here to help you, right? To teach, to educate, and to do that based off insights, learnings, experiences ActiveCampaign has from 85,000 paying customers, right? Like, there's an advantage we have to that we can start to distill that down into things that no one else has, and certainly Google hasn't put together. So how do we get away from infotainment or just like the cursory knowledge of anything else you could find online, to what is truly original but genuinely valuable, right?
Yeah.
That probably starts to look at things that are a little more verticalized. So not just speaking at such a high level, but it's verticalized into that we're speaking stronger to whom you are, what you're doing. It is something that is practical, right? Like, it's not going to be airy in language by which you read it and you're like, oh yeah, it is. Like, sure, like, good idea, but like, how? Right? And that then backs into making it actually truly actionable. Right? Like, here's how you put this into action. Not just here's the idea or the lesson, but here's how you also implement it. How this can be valuable to you. And if you do that down into a verticalized lens, you can actually probably get to a pretty personal level of content that is more human to them, in a way that it resonates and it supports you more than, hey, here's what ChatGPT said about this, and we edit it, we change some of the words as to make it look somewhat original or organic to us, but really it's just mush of other things on the internet right now.
So you think that's gonna accelerate the need for like marketers or leaders to be exceptional storytellers to differentiate that? Like, do you think that's gonna just change the game on what's required? Like, table stakes basically are going way up on that to cut through.
Yeah. The storytelling, the ability to put together a narrative, even the ability to just educate, right? Like, is not going to be as much as to just share, here's an idea and here's the expected outcome of that, what the value to you might be, but it's going to have to be one of, and let me help you implement that. Like, let's actually step through what that looks like in your business, and how you could start to see some of these results. There's a skill set to that, truly, right? I think some of the most humbling times in my career has been when I've been trying to teach someone something, right? And they ask me why, or how does that work? And I'm like, it just does. I don't know. It's from experience. Like, it's always worked that way for me, but to really start to understand and unpack that, you learn a lot through that teaching side. So I think there's a true skill set there.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely an art to it. I think, like, I saw a stat recently that I think with the new buyer expectations, that close to 80% of, and there was an age demographic, I think it was like 26 to 40, expect like a mission or a why, like a purpose-driven approach for companies, and only 36% of companies are actually executing on it, right? And so that goes into that narrative, the whole why, start with why with Simon Sinek and everything like that. So I think that's a good call out right there. So
it's interesting. I was watching, I love to cycle, and be it when it snows or the weather goes poorly, I'll use an indoor trainer. And I use it's a Kipper, which is made by Wahoo. And they just released a new version of it. And I was watching one of the review videos last night. This also tells you a lot about it. It's a review video by 2 triathletes on YouTube. Right? Okay. So I didn't even see this from their own channels or marketing. Right? Like, it's an influencer sharing this. And in their review of it, they talked about the packaging, and it's eco-friendly, doesn't use a lot of plastic, doesn't use a lot of cardboard. I remember watching, like, this has nothing to do with the product. But somehow I'm like, I also like, that's good to know. Like there is a care there in the environment, right?
Yeah.
But after I get it and set it up, I'm never going to think about that again. Like, it has
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
to do with this product, but it does tell me about the organization and their values, and that's someone I want to support and get behind.
Yeah.
Like, that's something first.
You're like, that's a good person. I would buy that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's kind of like
totally. Yeah.
that subconscious, like, well, they're doing the right thing. I'll pay a little more. Or like,
Yeah.
like that's the like internal thoughts that people have when they're looking at things like that. Like, and we don't have a lot of time to unpack this, but Deathwater, right? Like they created what, like a $300 million company or $1 billion value
Wild.
company out of being so freaking good at marketing that they could sell like
Yeah.
one of the largest commodities on earth for what, 500%, 600% what's normally sold.
Yeah. No, it's there. Even though just murder or thirst tagline, like I see people wearing liquid death t-shirts,
Oh, Liquid
sweaters,
Death.
like,
That's what I'm saying. Not
yeah,
Deathwater. Liquid Death,
yeah.
right? Liquid.
They have an entire merchandise line. Like, I bet you that's not, like I wouldn't laugh at the revenue they're taking. It's not.
No, they're crushing it, man. They're absolutely crushing it. So, anyways, well, Shay, I could talk with you probably for another hour or two on this. Unfortunately, we're up on time. So, where can people find you, more about what you're doing and some of the things, and then ActiveCampaign too? Like, where can they check out the platform and the company and what you guys are bringing to the market?
Yeah, absolutely. Easiest way to keep up with me would be on LinkedIn. It's just Shay Howe on LinkedIn. Fortunate to have somewhat of a unique name there. So yeah, just Shay Howe, and then ActiveCampaign would be activecampaign.com. I encourage everyone. We have free trials, tons of educational learning materials on the site. Check it out. Go in there, you'll start to see a depth of just how to bring automation into your business that would truly unlock some superpowers. The way I've described it, folks, is you just get extra marketers in the room through it, right? So test it out, use it, and then send me your feedback. What did you like? What did you not like? What I love is just staying close to our customers and our partners. So would welcome anyone to share their feedback as well.
I love that, man. Well, I really enjoyed this as well. And thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. All right. And we will see you on the next episode.